I'm Zach Crane, and this is a FishCenter special report. I hope you'll enjoy going deep with me, and enjoy going deep with me.
Yeah, it's not a glamorous job cleaning fish tanks for a living. A lot of people say it's pretty tedious, and I might agree with that a little bit, but my best line is always it's better than digging a ditch. I turned the hobby into a job. I've got a 54 corner reef tank, and then I've got a 500-gallon fish on it. My dad wondered what the hell I was doing forever. And then one night after a few margaritas, he's got his leg draped over the back of my couch and he's watching them, just kind of chilling out. Like, I think you figured it out, Dad. Just relax and don't think too much into it.
Hey, everybody, listen up. Ned is here. Listen, we really admire the way, the amount of care that you show for these guys. It keeps all of us employed. Were these fish to die, then we'd all be out on the street.
That's a little bit more pressure than I needed for this holiday season.
So basically, aquarium is a closed system. Everything goes in, has to go somewhere. In this system, the live rock, which is all the real rock, not the synthetic corals or anything else like that, and they call it live rock because it has bacteria on it. Bacteria breaks fish waste from toxic to non-toxic. So in this tank, the live rock serves double duty in being decorative as well as part of the filtration for the system. The other part of that, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to see, these blue balls down here are basically a place for bacteria to grow. And the bacteria takes the fish waste from toxic to non-toxic. So other things in the filter that we will be playing with today, the blue floss is just the mechanical filtration is what they call it. It just traps any kind of floating debris. So when the water comes up into the tank, it circulates around and then goes into these overflow boxes, which are the black columns on the side, and then trickles down through the filter floss and then over the bio balls. Over here, the kind of cone shaped with the bubbles and the film on the top, that's called a protein skimmer. So they pull out any uneaten food or fish waste or anything else like that. It pulls a lot of that out before the actual system has to break it down on its own.
That's like the bubbles you see on the beach.
Yeah, that dry white foam.
Yeah.
Kind of the same principle. The surface area of the bubbles attract proteins or particulates and it just pulls it out of the system. So it basically makes it easier for the biological, which is what we were talking about, the bacteria on the rock and on the bio balls, to do their job. Over time, the end product, which is nitrate, kind of builds up, and so that's why we'll do a water change today to try to lessen that. All this water in here is reverse osmosis water. We run it through a pretty intense filtration system and then mix synthetic sea salt. I jug it up and bring it, and we'll do about a 30-gallon water change today.
So if I were to put a little shot glass in there of water and drink that, what would happen?
You'd have a little salt in your mouth.
Yeah, that's about it. No poison.
No, it'd be just like drinking beach water, which I'm sure we've all done after a beer or two.
Absolutely.
I know Squirt's relatively young. He was pretty small when we got him, so I'd imagine he's max, 2.5, 3 years. Mm-hmm. The Tusk is pretty big, but he's almost full size, so he'd be kind of hard to judge. Blue is probably at least a 3 or 4 or 5 year old fish. Mm-hmm. The Soho, I'm surprised how fast he grew, because he was not that big whenever we got him. And he's easily doubled in size.
So what do you think he is?
I would guess he's like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
The eel to me looks the same as the day we put him in, so I have no idea on him.
Yeah. And puffer?
Formosa, maybe a couple years. Puffer, maybe a little bit more, because those get kind of big, and he's pretty good size.
The oldest one probably blue?
Yeah, I would guess. Blue's in full adult form. He's the passer angel or king angel, and he's got an attitude to match. And the soul also, pretty nasty disposition. That's just their MO out of the wild. They're just mean as hell. Take the lid off the protein skimmer. Kind of wipe the neck out of that. And you can see it's just some nasty,
What is that?
basically fish waste.
Yeah.
And then this sponge is just a mechanical filter, kind of like the blue floss, but it just catches bigger kind of particulates, and we rinse that out on a weekly basis. And you can see all the waste and everything that gets trapped in there. If you're going to take the time to have an aquarium, you should set it up right so that, you know, your whole idea is because hopefully you enjoy animals and or the color and, you know, beauty of nature. You should do your thing to make sure you're giving them the best environment possible.
Some people would argue these fish should be released back to their natural habitat.
I'm sure there's people like that, you know, same for dogs and cats and birds and everything else. It's just however you decide to choose.
Yeah. But if you were to release, where would you, I mean, you couldn't release these guys into the ocean, could you?
You know, I would give them a better than 50-50 chance.
You ever killed someone's fish by accident?
Oh, I've bleached the hell out of some fish.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I actually bleached a snowflake eel, and on top of it, so he was in a piece of coral. I didn't realize. Took him outside. It was dead of winter, so it's probably, you know, at best 40 degrees. I start spraying bleach on the coral.
Yeah.
He comes shooting out the side and slithering across the driveway.
Oh.
I threw him in a bucket of fresh water with the chlorinator in it and tossed him back in the tank, and he totally lived through it.
He lived through it.
Eels are tough individuals.
Yeah.
Their whole MO in the wild is to basically just stick their head in holes and cracks and crevices and see if there's something that they can eat. And hopefully nothing's gonna eat them first. Because most eels are nocturnal, and because of that, they've kind of generally gotten to a point where most of them, the eyesight's not real good.
Do you ever get bitten by the fish?
I've been bitten a couple times, but only by like a clownfish and a trigger or two.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, no eels. Depending on the type, this one would like crush your finger. He's a mollusk eater or like a snail or a shell.
Yeah.
So he eats that sort of stuff. So his main thing is just to crush it. His teeth look like molars.
Yeah.
So he would just be like putting your finger in a vice grip.
Yeah.
If you got a,
Think he'd break your finger?
yeah, I think he would just crush the bones.
He'd crush the bones, but no blood.
Well,
Maybe blood too.
Yeah. But if you've got like a fish eater where their teeth are more sharp and pointed, like needles almost, like a green moray, and all their teeth are pointed backwards, it could easily either strip the skin off your finger or just totally take it off, depending on how big it was. So basically this is called gravel vacuuming. You're getting into the sand and just letting gravity siphon off the water. So you get the sand up in there and all the heavier sand particles fall back down, and all the lighter fish waste and debris and stuff like that gets taken out with the water.
This will pull out the water and clean the sand at the same time?
Exactly.
Does your wife have any involvement in any of this?
No. She looks at our tank every once in a while, that's about it.
She looks at it, yeah. She's not into it, or she just used to it?
She's used to it. She likes the corals and everything, and just the natural color and the beauty of it. But as far as, I mean, I can put stuff in and take stuff out, and she won't recognize, if at all, you know, for maybe a month or two.
She'll say a month later, oh,
what happened to, or is that new? but for the most part, it's kind of funny. A really unscientific, what's the word I'm looking for? Assessment of the population of fish tank keepers.
Yeah.
It's probably about 80% male, if not more. And I think a lot of it has to do with that the women get attached to the fish. And if you've been in the hobby any kind of length of time, you realize that fish just die. And women don't like when things die, they get a little too attached. So now we're just wiping the algae off the glass.
People have a tendency to impart personalities onto animals. A lot of people for a while, wanted to kill Sir Squirt.
That's just wrong.
I agree.
He's just trying to survive. Yeah, I don't give him a whole lot of credit as far as personality. I think they've got their general disposition, which nature gave them.
Yeah.
But as far as, individual, not so much. I think all of them kind of do the Pavlov's dog, where they recognize when somebody comes up to the tank and do particular motions that there's a good chance they're going to get fed.
Yeah.
And so they start swimming around looking for food. But other than that, I think that's about it. But fish, yeah, they definitely go to sleep. They usually have their little areas that they go to, especially the triggers will wedge themselves in a rock. So that something like an eel will come up in the middle of the night. With that trigger, they're wedged in there, so it's harder for them to pull it out. And it's also kind of cool. Some of the wrasses, not these guys, but some of the smaller wrasses, they'll actually produce a slime coat that totally masks their scent, so that when predators come around and put their nose in there, they hit that mucus wall and don't really recognize it as a food source. All fish have a little bit of a slime coat, but the wrasse, it's like, it's close to an inch thick all the way around. The puffer, since he doesn't have any scales, he produces a nice mucus layer that kind of helps, fend off any bacteria or anything else like that. It kind of keeps
Some of these guys have
bubble.
scales and some don't.
Yeah, thing no scales, and the puffer no scales, and the eel no scales. And the trigger's scales are like super, super tiny, so it's almost like chainmail. It's so tight that it's really hard, dense. A lot of times if you would try to eat that, you would have to fillet it from the inside out. You'd have to fillet it with the skin on it and then fillet the meat off the skin.
Which of these fish are edible?
I would say all of them are edible if you're hungry now.
Yeah.
I've never been that hungry.
Were any of these fish born in the wild, or?
Almost all fish are born in the wild. There's only a handful of fish that are captive bred.
Really?
Some of the clownfish, the Nemos as they like to call them, are bred captively. But most of the larger fish like this, we hadn't mastered that as far as being able to breed those in captivity.
The majority of saltwater fish are Indo-Pacific, so Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean. A lot of places like Bali, Indonesia, such like that.
Many of these fish, probably that's their heritage.
I would say 80+%, close to probably even 90% of retail fish come from those areas.
But these ones you think were born there and brought here?
Yeah. There's a huge industry and the poor natives that collect the stuff get paid, a couple nickels for a fish, and then all the packing and shipping, and then by the time we pay for it, we're paying for all the overhead and everything and the shipping over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ship them in from all over the world. I would say 75–80% of the wholesalers are on the West Coast within 10 minutes of LAX. And they all fly in there and then distributed back out. We get them shipped in, overnight on UPS.
How do they ship them?
Pack them in styrofoam boxes and small bags, and in the wintertime they put little heat packs in there to keep the water.
So when we're going to do this show from San Diego later in the summer, and if we want to bring these fish with us, how would that work?
That'd be a lot of damn work, but
Yeah. Do it though.
You'd bag them all up and put them in boxes and ship them off.
Does the air pressure mess with them in the cabin? Put them underneath?
Obviously not.
guess not, but they don't need to be in the plane. They can be under the plane.
Yeah, they go in the cargo hold with everything else. That's why they put the heat packs in there because, you know, obviously it gets pretty cold up when you're up above or up in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah, you can't freeze them and then defrost them.
No, that didn't work too well.
Kill them.
No. Now I'm gonna go downstairs and bleach this stuff.
All right.
So it used to be we just drained all this water down the commode and then used fresh water to bleach and clean the corals. But I started using the wastewater from the tank to do all that.
What's the mask for?
You don't want to huff too much chlorine bleach. It'll eat out all your sinuses pretty easy.
Can you get sick from the fish?
Yeah, theoretically. There's a couple of diseases where you get like pretty bad skin erosion, open sores, if you get a certain kind of bacteria. My mom was quite concerned about that for a while. She was absolutely shocked when she found out you can make a living cleaning fish tanks. It took me 5 years and buying a house before she's like, "You're actually making a living cleaning fish tanks?" I was like, "Yeah."
How did you learn how to do this?
I used to be in wholesale, pet supply, and one of my accounts turned into a buddy / mentor named JJ McCullough. He kept telling me I needed to start doing this because low overhead, make your own hours, make decent money. And I basically rode with him for about 2 or 3 weeks, learning the ropes. And he taught me the gist of it. That and a lot of dead fish on my own.
Yeah.
MTV Cribs, that started a huge movement. They did a Yowie MTV Cribs, and one of the rappers had a huge fish tank in there. Aquarium, for that kind of hip hop culture, turned into like a status symbol. It was almost like the Cadillac Escalade. So a lot of other people saw it, thought it was cool, and decided to do it. You know, it's one of those things where you can do just about anything, put your own stamp on it as long as you got the right filtration.
Yeah.
I saw one time, it was like a huge archway that you walked through, and they swam over your head.
Oh wait, Sir Squirt's in there.
I used to have one at a strip club downtown. The owner was basically like a huge landlord. He rented slips or spaces for the dancers. So you worked whatever shift, you paid him for that space, that time, and whether you made your money back in tips or not, that was your problem. He rented out the bar. All he did was charge for the room. They paid him. Whatever you make on top of that, it's your business. He rented out 2 slips for a barbershop. In the summer, he would rent out a space for a big cooker where they would, you know, like cook ribs and chicken and everything else like that. And also, he'd rent out spots where somebody could wash and wax, detail your car. So basically, he was just like a bank. He set up in the office and exchanged money. He didn't do any of the dirty work. He just sat back there and collected money. And I was like, that's the smartest thing ever.
Yeah.
And plus, you know, if you were so inclined, you know, you could go get your hair cut, get dinner for the wife and kids, get your car washed and waxed, and check out the shoe show. But how could you be getting in any trouble because, you know, you went and got dinner and washed and waxed the car and got your hair cut? Yeah, and you're all in the same spot. If you're doing a saltwater aquarium, it's kind of funny that it plays out that you're gonna spend around $20 a gallon to set up an aquarium. So if you're figuring you want a 100-gallon aquarium, between tank, light, filter, you know, everything else like that, you're gonna look at about $2 grand. But that doesn't include any kind of fish or any kind of decorations because you can go from one end of the spectrum to the other as far as expensive or cheap on that.
Yeah. What do you figure these fish cost, each one of them?
This guy at his size would be a $200 close to fish.
$200?
Pretty close at that size, yeah. Blue would be real similar. The clown trigger, probably 150.
Dottie.
Yeah.
And then Mammoth, the orange one.
He would definitely be in the mid 100s.
How about eel there?
The eel's probably one of the cheaper fish between him and the Huma Huma. I doubt he would go much over 100, 120 maybe at
How about
max.
puffer?
Puffer's another 80 to 100, 120 at max.
Sir squirt.
60, 80 bucks.
Sir squirt's the cheapest.
Just surely on size, and he's a pretty common fish.
Common.
Yeah. I think we're in good shape. All the fish look healthy, eating good. I'm a little concerned about tang and blue mixing it up.
Yeah.
It seems right now to be, purely just a little bit of territorial and really quick skirmishes. Just something we need to kind of keep an eye on, that if they start somebody gets a little hyper dominant and starts henpecking one up into a corner, we might have to make a decision about, which one we want to keep.
Can any of these fish live by themselves in a tank, or is that weird?
I think any fish can live by itself in a tank. Unfortunately, maybe I'm a little callous now with been doing this for so long, but I don't give them a huge amount of, I think if their environment is poor, being water quality, food quality, lack of food, heat, cold, something like that's wrong, I see them uncomfortable and not happy about the situation. But as far as I'm not happy because I don't have a friend to play with, I don't give them that much credit.